This is a Hot Pie Original.
Black helicopter and tinfoil hat wearing people, I'm coming your way. I'm coming your way. I'm not quite coming all the way to those of you that think that Bill Gates put a chip in your head, but I'm coming, tinfoil people. I'm with you. I'm coming your way. On the issue of privacy, most people like to say, well, if you haven't done anything wrong, you don't have anything to hide. What are you so worried about? That is the standard answer. So I guess at the risk of being lumped in with the tinfoil hat wearers and the black helicopter crowd, I'm not at all comfortable with this. Not to completely go black helicopter. I may sound black helicopter. I don't think so. I don't think it's an outrageous position at all. In fact, I would say I think most of you have an outrageous position. I don't think Apple and Google are trying to track me, for sinister reasons. I know that's one section of black helicopter and tinfoil hat wearers. They don't have time. They don't have the energy. I don't believe they have the real interest in trying to track me down for sinister reasons. To quantify and qualify for business reasons, yes, no doubt. I don't think Bill Gates is putting chips in me or you. Don't see the upside to doing that. But, and there is a but, and I think I really have a problem with this. But my argument, narrow as it may be, on an island as I think it's going to be, as tinfoil hat wearer, as many of you might say, my argument is based on what seems to be an unappreciated or underappreciated issue of presume me innocent and stay out of my stuff. I really wish we followed the political mantra, the very simple mantra. It's actually a title of a book. I have it on my shelf. I think it's kind of interesting. And it says something like, don't hurt me and don't take my stuff. There. Well, don't presume me guilty. Not okay. Look, I backed up, to be clear. This is not the first time we've gone here. And Apple is very much, I think, in the news. And I think people want to write it off and say, oh, any of you that have a problem with this, you're hiding something. You support immoral and criminal behavior and all that stuff. And it's not fair. And I think you got to back up for a second and think of the principled arguments here. I backed up Apple a few years ago. Remember the debate, and this was during the war on terror. This was a big deal. I was not a fan of the Patriot Act, called a black helicopter guy back then, and I'm still not a favor of the Patriot Act. I think we need to start presuming people innocent. It's kind of an important thing, and people laugh it off until it happens to you. But I backed up Apple when, remember that fight? It usually centered around the war on terror, and that is law enforcement saying that Apple had to provide encryption so they could, because they couldn't get into iPhones. So that Apple needed to start providing encryption so law enforcement and the government, one and the same, could get into the phone to catch the bad guys. Remember that? And I backed up Apple and said, no, don't go there. No. Apple was criticized heavily for this during the war on terror. And I'm not accusing Apple of being sinister. Well, yes, I am. Never mind. The government, I'll assume, has good intentions. The government wants to catch bad guys. The example given is the most horrific thing imaginable. So, of course, they want to catch the bad guys. It's just the principled argument of the way of going about it. Two principled reasons, but here's the story for those that have not followed. And I think as soon as you hear what they are hoping to find, you're going to say, well, we should go to any means necessary to catch these monsters. I can't argue they're monsters. But to catch a monster, other people cannot get caught up in that. Think of the accusation here, if they get it wrong. If someone is accused, this ruins your life, this ruins your career, this ruins everything you're about. By going here, you run a chance of getting it wrong, and that's not okay. This is USA Today. Apple unveiled plans to scan U.S. iPhones for images of child sexual abuse, drawing applause from child protection groups, but raising concern among some security researchers that the system could be misused by governments looking to surveil their citizens. Apple said its messaging app will use on-device machine learning to warn about sensitive content without making private communications readable by the company. The tool Apple calls Neural Match will detect known images of child sexual abuse. Matthew Green of Johns Hopkins, a top cryptographer researcher, was concerned that it could be used to frame innocent people by sending them harmless but malicious images designed to appear as matches for child porn, fooling Apple's algorithm and alerting law enforcement, essentially framing people. He says researchers have been able to do this pretty easily. Remember that this is the worst crime you can imagine. It is the worst accusation you can imagine. I know you're going to say, but for every 1,000 that we catch, okay, does that mean the one you got wrong makes it okay? Because the one you get wrong, they are ruined. Got it? Life's over. That one, that charge, that accusation, that mention, and your life and your career is over. You don't get it back. Some say this technology could leave the company vulnerable to political pressure in authoritarian states such as China or the U.S. What happens when the Chinese government, researcher says, what happens when the Chinese government says, hey, here's a list of files that we want you to scan for? Does Apple say no? I hope they say no, but their technology won't say no. I can't nerd out. I can't compete with many of you on the technology. I'm sure Apple is going to say, oh, this is almost foolproof. I'm sure many of you are going to say, this is almost foolproof. I think people on the edge of this who don't even want to get into it would say, what are you worried about? We've got to catch the monsters. And if this is what it takes to catch a monster, then so be it. No. Actually, no. I say no for two principled reasons. Not a conspiracy, not you're putting a chip in my head, not, Biden is out to watch me or Gates is out to get me or Tim Cook is going to follow me. I don't mean any of those arguments. Not a conspiracy and not hiding anything. The government, in this case, the government and Apple, should not look into my car. It should not look into my house or my phone without a warrant. Period. No exceptions. Oh, if anybody argues this, immediately you sound paranoid, right? That's BS. Our phone is our life now. We can't just say it's just the phone. What do you mean? It is your house. It is your wallet. It is your purse. It is the equivalent of our private life totally. The burden shouldn't be on you or me or Apple for that matter. The burden, and I know law enforcement, again, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. I know law enforcement's going to say, well, we need a lot of help to catch these bad guys. I know, I'm sure you're right. I hate it. But the burden is got to be solely on you. It's got to be solely on law enforcement. And it's got to be a tough process to get into my house or my phone or my car, period. Because if you get it wrong, for all the times Apple's technology, it seems to me, again, I'm arguing as a novice when it comes to the technology and the encryption, and I'm sure some nerds are going to say, oh, it's so good, it's so good, it's so good. But when it's not, someone is ruined, okay? And that stops everything. I mean, every time you search, there should be a warrant. I guess people could argue, but oh man, when you sign up for the terms of service, you're in essence giving permission for someone to look. I don't know that's quite fair, and I don't think we quite understand it that way. The burden should be reversed back to the government, and Apple, by the way, shouldn't even be in a relationship with them. This is really, really not okay. And I have a sinister motive there. But one, get a warrant. Get a warrant. Scanning for guilty people is not okay. Even though you might catch a bunch of even though scanning for a bunch of people, you might catch some bad ones. You stop enough cars, you'll catch somebody doing something wrong. You search enough houses, you'll find somebody doing something wrong. I'm sure that's true. Law of averages is on your side. You throw a big enough net, you'll find somebody doing something wrong. In this case, it's the worst crime of all, and they are ruined. The other argument I would make, again, fully accepting, I don't think it's going to be accurate, but fully accepting that I've gone tinfoil hat or black helicopter or paranoid. I don't think so, but I accept that that comes with this argument because it's not a very comfortable place to be. I mean, it's really not a politically correct position to take when somebody's saying we're out to catch child predators and you're arguing against it. It is a really awful place to be, especially when I'm arguing on principles alone. But here's the other reason. Of course, you want to catch the monsters. They are monsters. I don't trust why they're doing this. And I say that not to accuse Tim Cook of wanting a chip in my head. I don't think they're out to follow me. I think they're out to get in bed with the government. I get the feeling this is Apple. I don't have any evidence to back me up, and this is Jeff going paranoid. This is Jeff going black helicopter. But I'm skeptical. Again, I lecture people all the time. You really should not want a relationship between government and industry. I know government would say that's ridiculous. I know most of you would say that's ridiculous. But the closer they get together, the less you should trust. The closer they get together, the more powerful the company, the more power over your government. I don't think you want that relationship. And I would argue, tinfoil hat firmly planted on my head, I would argue that this is Apple and maybe any technology company, but the most powerful. Okay, we live in a world of haves and have-nots, and we certainly live in a world of have technology companies and have-nots. This, to me, reeks of Apple throwing the government a bone to say, I'll do this for you. An easy sales pitch, an easy argument to make, a monster of a crime. Who's going to argue against this? I'm skeptical that this is not Apple saying, I'll do this for you here if you back away from me on antitrust. You back away from me on this. You back away from me on that. We're going to throw you a very easy bone. I get that may be black helicopter. No, that probably is black helicopter. I question the motive. I'm not questioning how brilliant Apple is, because they're brilliant, and I've got a bunch of their stuff. I mean, think about how many devices in your house have an Apple on them. But I think this might be a way of saying, you know what we need you to do? We need you to back away. Give us an easy way to get you to back away. Here you go. That's an example. It's an easy time to get in bed for government and industry to get in bed. They're out to solve horrific crimes. Who could argue with that? I just think the fact that they're trying to get in bed with each other is very scary. I think this reeks of back away here, help me out there. Okay, that's it. There's a black helicopter above me and I have a tinfoil hat on. I get it. It's just on principle alone. I'd push back and say, don't start that paranoiaing with me, or don't say you're hiding something. Just remember what that professor said. One, someone could get framed. And when they get framed, you are ruined. Okay? They're not framing you to say, well, Bob may have cheated on his taxes. They're going to ruin you. If this goes wrong, when it goes wrong, and you might say they must have done something. Whoever it is ruined. Get a warrant. Stay out of my stuff, period. Stay out of our stuff. And two, do not get in bed. Apple and the government should not be in bed together. John McClellan is the co-founder and creator of ATX Hot Sauce in all 50 states, now in several retail outlets as well. So we're going to turn it over to the social media rock chef superstar, and we're going to walk through a few sauces and why you should buy. We've done beet heat. So we're second in line now for the tasting. Don't forget, everyone, go to atxhotsauce.com. So here we go.
All right. So this one is our smoked habanero 5-pepper. We smoke habaneros with ancho, pasilla.
Is that going to hurt?
This one? No,
Yeah.
this one's actually really, really good.
Okay.
This is like your traditional tapatía, but without the vinegar in it, right? And because of that fermentation process that we've talked about all the time. This one is great on sandwiches, pizzas, things like that. Great on hot wings. I think you're going to really like this one too, especially the smoky flavor with the adobe chipotle and the smoked habaneros. We actually smoked the habaneros before we.
Does that go with the cab?
This would not go with cab. This would go with the great Chenin Blanc, though.
I teed you up with that one.
Yeah, yeah.
That is good. That's good.
Isn't that good? It's just classic take. Well, it's a new take on a classic item. So it's called smoked habanero 5-pepper.
All right, don't forget
One of my
ATX.
favorites.
Don't forget atxhotsauce.com. Want to hear a terrifying story? I hate to do this to you. This is a terrifying story that even the cops admit they're lucky it didn't end horribly, and I mean horribly as in the worst kind of way. A school janitor, this is so terrifying. A school janitor was planning a mass shooting. Yeah. Like there's no screening. Well, he's there at the school, obviously. A guy that worked inside the school was armed, had the plan ready to shoot up the place and everything. I hope when you hear this, you ask the same question that I'm making. If he was diagnosed with a dangerous mental illness, why did you hire him? This is, I mean, even the cops are saying, we can't tell you how lucky we are because there was no way we could have stopped him beforehand because we didn't know, and he was in the school. A janitor in an Oregon high school was prepared to gun down students and teachers at the school where he worked and made detailed plans for the shooting spree. Christopher Clay, 24-year-old janitor for South Medford High School, surrendered to Medford police, allegedly confessing to officers he had homicidal thoughts. This is just... Why he turned himself is the million-dollar question. I believe that he had done a lot of planning and had a lot of sinister thoughts, but he had that one moment where he wanted help, said Medford Police Lieutenant Mike Boudreau. Thank goodness that happened. Had he not turned himself in, I don't think we would have figured this one out before it all happened. Boudreau said Clay, that's the guy who was going to be the shooter, had mentioned his plan and his homicidal intentions to other people who did not take him seriously and did not report him to authorities. Oh my God. What are you doing? Just so you know, he had a diagnosed mental illness. The guy with a diagnosed mental illness, according to police, okay, first of all, he was armed. He had it all. He had everything, including the body armor. He's ready to go. And he had a moment where the guy knew that he was suffering mentally, had told people that he wanted to kill everyone in the school. He turned himself in. There was no specific motive other than mass casualty, police say. We don't believe it was some kind of grind with the school that led him to want to carry this out. We believe this poor individual had these ideations well before being employed there. They're not recent. Tell me you're asking the same thing I am. Tell me. Why? Why? Why did you hire him? Why? He began working at South Medford High School in February, according to Medford School District. He had not displayed resentment towards the school or behavioral red flags, the school says, that would have initiated an investigation. Yeah, well, except this. Following the initial interrogation and investigation into Clay, police executed search warrants at his home. There they found dozens of guns, ammunition, tactical gear, and written material with a map of how he was going to go through the school and shoot people. The would-be shooter had a specific date in mind for the attack and wrote about targeting other locations in addition to the school. Okay, here's the issue. A court's previous determination of mental illness barred Clay from legally obtaining guns. I'm sorry, why did you hire him? I mean, I know it's tough to find people maybe to do janitorial work. I get it, but he'd already been flagged. Not saying that everyone knew that he was going to kill anybody, but he couldn't. He'd already been flagged with a dangerous mental disorder. I know when somebody would say, well, that's discriminatory. You're going to say in the process of hiring, that's a right call? He's now charged with attempted murder, first-degree attempted assault, attempted unlawful use of a weapon, tampering with evidence, and felony disorderly conduct. The janitor in the school, all the gear and everything ready to go.
From the Hot Pie Media Studios in Austin, Texas, it's the Jeff Ward Show. Listen at jeffwardshow.com.